All right, well, good afternoon. I'm Amy Dobrkova, Vice President of Fleet Solutions at Blink Charging. We are a Miami Beach-based company. We are global. We're in 27 countries, and we're right here. We've been in business since 2009, and we are deploying EV charging infrastructure all across the state of Florida and globally. But we won a contract with the state to deploy DC fast chargers on 4 major highway corridors, all funded. So we're very thankful for that. So on the panel today, I'm going to introduce them, and then they're going to each give you just a quick intro, and we have a few slides to visualize it. So we've got Alicia Lopez, Clean Cities Director for South Florida Regional Planning Council, Anuj Shoshki, Director of Development, Florida Power and Light, Danny Diaz, Acting Assistant Director of Administration for Department of Solid Waste Management for Miami-Dade County, and Matt Anderson, Resiliency and Sustainability Manager for the City of Coral Gables Public Works Department. So we're going to, let me share the slide, and we'll start with Alicia.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alicia Lopez, and I'm the Clean Cities Director at the South Florida Regional Planning Council. So Clean Cities is a program designated through the Department of Energy, and I work with local government, state government, private companies, nonprofits on transitioning from gasoline and diesel to an alternative fuel. So whether that be electric, propane, renewable natural gas, biodiesel, and hopefully eventually hydrogen. But I walk with them every step of the way. I do a fleet analysis. I help them with the procurement process. I help them find funding, especially everything that's coming out with the new administration. If they need grant writing, I help with that as well, and then help them plan maybe some sites if they're looking for electric vehicle infrastructure or any other type of alternative fuel. So I walk with them every step of the way, and I also work with sustainability directors on their plans of what they would like to do within their organization as well.
Thank you. And Florida Power and Light, Anuj.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so my name is Anuj Choksi. I'm with Florida Power and Light's development team. Some of you in the room may have the good fortune of receiving an FPL bill. And, fun fact, Florida Power and Light is the largest utility, not just in the state, but actually in the entire country. We have about 5.8 million customers, 12,000 customers that we serve. And my role at Florida Power and Light is around some of our infrastructure programs. So we are deploying one of the largest networks of EV fast charging and other comprehensive solutions throughout the state. And I look forward to talking to you guys today about how we can accelerate electrification.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Matt Anderson. I am the Resiliency and Sustainability Manager for the City of Coral Gables. I've been in that role for about 8 years now, and really joined the city when we were taking off on our journey on sustainability, and part of that journey has been electrifying our fleet. So what you see on the screen there is really a snapshot of what we've been able to accomplish since 2015, 2016, when we started introducing electric vehicles into our fleet. We actually have 70 in our fleet right now. Comprises about 12% of our total fleet being electric, all on the light duty side. We currently also manage over 41 charging stations within our charging points within our city parking garages, surface parking lots. So we have a really robust network of EV charging throughout our city and are continuing to expand upon that. In March of 2022, we actually also passed legislation that waived city permit fees for single-family residential homes to install EV charging. So we want to make it easy and accessible for our residents and our businesses to be able to install EV charging. We actually also updated our EV readiness code. We had an original code in 2019 that required any new developments that were coming online that had 20 or more off-street parking spaces. It originally asked for 2% EV installed of their parking, 3% EV ready, and 15% EV capable. Well, our commission wanted to increase those requirements because obviously we see where demand is on electric vehicles. I think last year it reached 10% of total vehicle sales throughout the world. And I think by 2030 it's supposed to be above 40%. So this is no longer the future, this is here. And we as cities need to be planning for that and have the infrastructure in place to support that. So we felt it was time for us to update our code and actually passed one of the most forward-thinking EV charging ordinances in the country, and increased our original requirements to 5% EV installed, 15% EV ready, 20% EV capable, and the remaining 60% of the new developments need to have the sufficient structural penetrations to be able to go 100% if they need to in the future. So that is something that we are really, really proud of. And we are nowhere close to being done. We have a lot of plans in the future, whether it be our surface parking lots that we're continuing to develop, or even an exciting project that we're calling the Mobility Hub, which is really looking at the future of transportation and incorporating EV infrastructure, autonomous vehicles, ride sharing, drone delivery. Like, it's really, really exciting to be a part of that. So by the time we finish building out our infrastructure, at least what we have planned so far, we'll have over 231 charging points just in our city, which I'll talk more a little about during the panel.
Great job. All right.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Danny Diaz, Department of Solid Waste Management. I've been with the county for over 20 years, of which 16 have been with the Department of Solid Waste. What you're looking there is a picture of our first electric automated side loader. We're very proud to have that unit. It is parked currently at our waste to energy plant, so it has a closed loop. It actually leaves our facility, averages about roughly 30 miles on a single charge, and gets to service about 600 plus homes, and returns with roughly about 20% left. The cool thing about this particular vehicle is the round trip. So on the side, it's posted that it's powered by the waste it collects. So our waste to energy, we collect household garbage and trash. We burn that electricity and we burn that garbage and trash into electricity, which powers this particular vehicle itself. EVs on the heavy trucking industry is at its infancy stages. We would love to do more of these ASLs. We currently have roughly over 200 of these that service 350,000 homes. We touch every person in Miami-Dade County or that home twice a week. It's just unfortunate these trucks right now don't have the driving distances with the need of the hydraulic system on the body in order to do 1,000 homes and get those higher driving ranges. The county in itself has roughly about 12,000 vehicles. We have a strong EV initiative within the county with our light vehicles. So in the first year, we did 10%. In year 2, we're doing 20%. And we're gonna gradually increase that. So just using solid waste as an example, we have over 250 light vehicles, and we're gonna be ordering, we have Ford Mach-E's coming in. We're gonna do F-150 Lightnings for like our superintendents at the landfills, so they have clearance and they can get up and down the hill. So we're gonna continue to head down that path. EV, just to kind of reiterate what Matt said, it's not if, it's when. We are headed down there in that direction. Obviously, garbage trucks, it's still early, but we're excited with EV and infrastructure and what those opportunities are gonna be in the future.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so I'll have a few questions for you. You mentioned you're buying electric vehicles for your fleet, and I'm just curious, have there been any challenges, maybe delays, or what are some of the challenges with actually getting electric vehicles?
So I think electric vehicles and just the heavy trucking industry in itself are having issues with the supply chain. We're facing those difficulties every day. I've been over fleet for roughly 15 years, and the heavy trucking industry, obviously this is our core function. This is the tool for our employees to go out and provide the service. We're hearing now 2 years to get a truck delivered. The EV that you see was something that we had long in the making. It's a Mack LRE with a Labrie body, something that was probably close to 2 years in advance having those discussions. And we continue to have discussions today because it's only one unit. Every brand manufacturer is coming to market with their EV, whether it's Autocar, Battle Motors with Crane Carrier, BYD, you name it, they're coming to market. We're considering all those options. Mack is the first person that could put a truck on the ground and put it into fruition for us. So we kind of took that deal and ran with it. They are our partner. The truck we're able to drive it, physically see it. It went to Waste Expo. We kind of showed it off. It's grabbed a lot of attention. I think it's probably been more at events than it has collected garbage. Our driver has been like a rock star for us because, with that truck and that responsibility comes his celebrity. But I will say that, supply chain has been our biggest issue, whether it's a light vehicle or a heavy vehicle. The industry has not recovered. I don't see it recovering anytime soon. I'm thinking maybe 2025. It's just been a rough time to get vehicles in the door, and let alone you place an order and then comes a year later a supply surcharge. And you're going to have to try to honor that, because if not, they're willing to cancel the order on you. So yeah, it's been rough all the way around.
So I'll add to that. On the challenging side, I've been fortunate enough, in our city, we haven't faced a lot of challenges as far as EV adoption. I have a mayor and commissioners that drive electric vehicles, so they've been really helping push this forward. And fortunate enough that I have a lot of support from whether it's our fleet manager or a parking director where we're implementing this, and our finance team, because obviously we need the money to be able to pay for this infrastructure. So for us, I think the first challenge that we faced when we developed our plan was in 2016 was those first 20 vehicles that we ordered. The employees were a little hesitant. It was a new technology at the time. So I actually took it upon myself and our fleet director as well. And when we started giving those vehicles out, we actually sat in the vehicles with the employees and showed them how to drive it. And it's been a really amazing experience to watch that transition from the hesitancy of like, well, I don't want to be in charge of charging it, like what and that sort of thing, to now I speak to some of those same employees that now own electric vehicles personally, because of the experience they've had in helping transition, the city transition to EV. So that's been a really, really great experience. And part of it too, especially for the cities out there, is, have a really good plan in place. Like when we started developing ours, we took a survey of all of our departments. We targeted which vehicles we think we could replace. I didn't include it in there, but a lot of the vehicles we replaced were, and cities will all understand this, were non-rescue recon vehicles. Like they're not mission critical after a storm, because at the time, in a lot of the locations that our vehicles were parking, we did not have backup power or backup generators. Again, when we started our infrastructure. Now I'm proud to say all the infrastructure, all the places that we are parking our vehicles do have backup power. So we have that layered resiliency in place. That's the other hat I got to put on, is making sure we're resilient after a storm. But for us, having that plan, taking an inventory, working with our department directors on identifying those vehicles, and most importantly, having that infrastructure in place before we transitioned. So it wasn't a hard transition for our employees and our departments to move over to electric was key. Basically, we had charging infrastructure right behind their offices to be able to charge the cars. So it was even easier than them getting in the vehicle and driving all the way out to our public works facility or to our fire station where our two fueling stations are within the city, and having to drive all the way there just to fill up the car. So, making it easy and convenient for people was really, really key.
That's great. Yeah, in the infrastructure world, right? It's get the infrastructure in now while you're waiting on the vehicles. Anush?
Yeah, certainly. I can comment on that as well, right? So, FPL, we've definitely been a long proponent for EVs, right? And on the home front, I think we put in the first hybrid electric bucket truck back in 2006. But then since then, we've grown our green fleet to, around 1,800 vehicles consisting of, your biodiesel, your hybrids, plug-in hybrids, electrics. And then we're also focused heavily now on full conversion to electric. And we're starting with light duty primarily, right? So we're looking at, like the Ford Lightning, the Mustang Mach-E's, even the Nissan Leafs, depending on the different customer roles and that sort of thing. And we've received some allocations, but while we do wait, I kind of echo with Coral Gables there, right? We want to prepare our sites and have them EV ready, right? Those service centers and those things, so that when those EVs do come, because we know they will come, even though there is a bit of a backlog, those sites will be ready and people will be able to make that full transition. And then beyond the home front, right, for our customers, we've launched our fleet pilot tariff, right? And so that tariff allows our customers, depending on where they are in the journey, we can start to help assess and analyze, their current fleets and see what it would take to electrify and look at some of the routes and that sort of thing, and focus on, primarily light duty, some medium duties at price parity, so we can work with them on that. And then if they're ready to kind of jump in, we can help with the infrastructure side, right? So we provide on-bill turnkey solutions without any upfront costs and an on-bill solution for them.
Wow, that would be a great resource, I'm sure, for a lot of you. So Alicia, as Jerry Maguire would say, show me the money. Where's the money coming from?
Actually, there has been a lot of money recently being distributed through the Federal Transit Administration, mostly for transit side, but recently they had $20 million to improve transit in areas experiencing low-term economic development. There's also the Low No grant, which a lot of the cities and the counties are actually applying for. It's $1.7 billion with a B, billion just for this year.
Wow.
Okay, yes, and that actually funding just recently came out this week. And then also to let everyone know that may not necessarily be a part of the Low No, since that is mostly transit side, the Department of Transportation is actually having a webinar on February 8th. If you have not received it, I recommend that you all join. It's for the discretionary pot of funds. That's the $2.5 billion that's coming out through the federal government for local municipalities, local organizations, nonprofits, that they can actually apply for their infrastructure and electrification needs. And then one other one that I actually wanted to mention, this is more so for local government, but the Department of Energy actually recently released, it's called Clean Energy to Communities. And this $50 million pot is for local communities to work with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory with the Department of Energy on their clean energy needs. So they provide tools for planning, they provide funding, they provide all the resources that you need to accomplish your clean energy goals within your community. So definitely be on the lookout. If I were you, I would definitely register for any kind of updates, but there's actually going to be more funding coming out down the pipeline. If you guys are working with universities, there's been a lot of money for research and development when it comes to electrification, battery storage, even recycling. So there's definitely a lot of money out there. I would say if you guys need any assistance, please feel free to contact me. I do have resources on when, the webinars and when funding's available and when those actual application will be closing.
If I can chime in, I mean, especially for the cities out there, take advantage of these great resources and organizations that are here, whether it be your Clean Cities Coalition, whether it be the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, whether it be the Electrification Coalition. There is a lot of organizations out there that have a lot of expertise to be able to provide resources and information. For us, our journey wasn't alone. We were reaching out and working with these organizations to kind of help put our plan together and now try to share that amongst other cities around the region and around the country, because that's what this is all about. You don't have to try to, do this on your own. There's a lot of cities that have been through this and have started it. And so definitely reach out and be able to tap into those organizations.
Yes, I totally agree with that. As far as, I often hear, does the utility have enough to, take care of all these electric vehicles out there? So, Anuj, can you just, settle that debate for us?
Yeah, in terms of I guess I am in the best position to answer that, right? So, the simple answer is certainly yes, right? So, from a utility standpoint, we understand that, there's a lot of EVs and the forecasts are in the future very bright for EVs, but it's not necessarily a new problem for them, right? If you guys recall from the 70s and 80s, right, refrigeration and air conditioning was coming online, and we were able to serve that load, right? And every year, since 2011, in fact, we've spent, billions in infrastructure to support our system and enhance our system. We are a hurricane state, after all, and we need to serve our power reliably. But to answer the question even more directly, right? So every year, the utility, or Florida Power and Light specifically, submits a 10-year site plan. And in that 10-year site plan, we include EV forecasts. And so we look at, what is the expected load and what are the forecasts in the future for EVs and how that's going to impact our load. And that informs us in terms of how we need to, adapt to our generation, as well as, even our transmission, right? And many of you guys have probably heard of some of our 30 by 30 goals, where we're installing 30 million solar panels by 2030. And that's, or 2030, sorry. And that's definitely one that is going to even further supplement, the load needs for EVs and others as we transition to renewables.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So back to the trash. How do you convert trash into electricity? How does that work?
So we have a RDF. It's Refuse Derived Fuels Waste to Energy Facility. Some of the newer ones that you hear, the most recent one in West Palm Beach, I think was built in like 2015. That's a mass burn. So ours is slightly different. So we have two buildings. So we distinguish between garbage is what you put in a cart, and trash may be that bulky pile that you may see in the front of your home with palm fronds, maybe a mattress, and any other thing that you might want to come up with and throw in the front. So we have the waste energy, the same vehicles that pick up in front of your homes, we'll dump there, we'll put that on the ground, and you have these massive pit cranes, and they run it through the boiler system. We take out the ferrous metals, there's magnets, we want to make sure that there's no propane tanks. We take out anything that's not processable. We have our site for rejects, and it's hooked up to the grid. So that particular plant could power up to 25,000 homes. But we've already accounted for the growth in EVs. And when we were considering this one truck, we said, why wouldn't we park it here? It's the best story, right? It's powered by the vehicle, the garbage it collects. So we've already planned for that growth. We put in our first charging station. It has a 50 kilowatt charger. And at the same time, not only is the garbage truck going to work out of this facility, we have a large transfer division. So there's roughly about 140 tractors and trailers. Transfer station is a midpoint for a garbage truck that picks up at your home. It doesn't have to go all the way to the plant or all the way to the landfill. It's kind of like, let's say, half the distance. They'll dump that on the ground, and we'll load that and put it up into a tractor trailer. And those tractor trailers will then go to the waste to energy facility. So it's a real large operation. We do roughly about 1 million tons a year in that particular plant alone. And the waste energy facility is basically the best way to preserve the landfill airspace that we have at our two active landfills. So that conversion into electricity is going to power not only this truck, but many more to come. And we're just going to line them up until we can fulfill the capacity that the plant can offer for us.
That's amazing. I'm excited to see that. Let's see. The next question is for Matt. You've been doing this for a long time with EVs. And what are some of the, I would say, things that you've seen has improved over the years? So when you first started to now.
That's a good question. Obviously technology's advancing every year. I mean, you have all the manufacturers now committing to building EVs and putting them out on the market. So that's really exciting to see, and seeing the transition from not just having light duty options, now having medium to heavy duty options to really heavy duty with garbage trucks. And that's something that we're evaluating as well, including, in our case, we operate a trolley system within our city, and we're looking at seeing if we can electrify that. Technology's not there yet, but it's right there. But for us too, part of the journey when we started this was not only, hey, we need to buy EVs because we want to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels from an environmental perspective, but for us, we thought it's important for government to invest in this technology early on. So if we're not investing in it, how do we expect the general public to invest in it? So for us, we wanted to make that commitment and invest in that, because that's where you start getting that R&D continuing to go into it, where when we started off, we were buying Nissan Leafs that had an 80-mile range to them. That worked for our city because we're a small to medium-sized city. For those that aren't familiar, Coral Gables, a little west of here, in Miami-Dade County, we're about 14 square miles. We have about 50,000 residents. So we're not a large city by any means, but we wanted to make sure that we were doing our part in committing to this technology and investing in it. And we thought that was critically important to us. And that actually was said by our fleet director. That wasn't said by me. So that's key, because for us, we've hosted a number of cities that have come to our facilities and toured them and seen our fleet. And the most effective communication I have seen where we've been able to see other cities help adopt is when fleet directors were talking to each other and speaking their language of like, hey, the environmental guy coming and telling you EVs are good and this, but it's one thing for a fleet director to talk to another fleet director and say, hey, these vehicles have been a blessing for us, less maintenance. When they come in for preventive maintenance, they're in and out in no time. It gives me more time to work on our heavier duty fleet, which I know you can chime in on, that, and the challenges that those possess, because, our city, we're a full service city. So we provide our own police, our own fire, and our own garbage collection. So for us, we have a relatively large fleet to meet all those demands. So, the improvement in technology has been amazing, and it's exciting to see where it's come the last couple years and where it's going to continue to go, especially with the investment that the federal government's making with all the funding being allocated to that, I think is really, really exciting to be a part of that and see where it goes in the next 5 to 10 years.
And just to reiterate, reinforce what Matt was talking about, Matt and I actually had several conversations prior to today. We actually are meeting in person for the first time, but you got to tap into each other, right? My electric garbage truck is something that I can, share with anybody that's interested in potentially considering a vehicle. What works, what doesn't work, the pros and cons. We've been down this path. Miami-Dade County is always looking forward. Technology, the refuse industry changes very significantly from year to year. So, lessons learned. We want to share those experiences with anybody. Anybody wants to reach out to solid waste in particular, we're here to help you. But that's just to reinforce that we are each other's best resources by sharing what our experiences are.
Thank you for that invitation. So we're going to come schedule a tour, right?
We would be happy to help to schedule that.
Awesome.
And if I can add to that too, it's really critically important and I know we do it as sustainability professionals, we're always communicating with each other and sharing best practices. But even on the fleet and just the infrastructure side as well, building out a network that's connected. Like, we could do everything we want as the city of Coral Gables and have all the infrastructure we need in place. But the reality is we need that to connect to other cities, to the county. So having those conversations and building out these city networks to county networks to regional networks where now people can travel long distances. And that's where you see a lot of the funding coming in is along the major corridors to be able to really have people feel comfortable owning an electric vehicle and being able to travel longer distances is key. So I think that's another part of this is making sure that we're all talking and sharing our infrastructure plans with one another. So they're all connected and people, because for us too, another great benefit that we've seen from installing the infrastructure that we've done, it attracts business to our city. It attracts visitors to our city. I've spoken with people that have been charging at our charging station that says, there's no charging station. I don't have one at my house, or I live in a multifamily unit that's older that doesn't have it, that drive to Coral Gables to charge their vehicle. And if they're there for any extended period of time, what are they doing? They're visiting our local retail stores. So, for us, it just makes sense on so many different levels. That, we're attracting businesses, we're attracting people to our city. And, I've had residents call and have these concerns of like, I live in a multifamily, and they don't have charging. What could I do? And we have maps available where all of our charging infrastructure is. And I didn't mention this before, our charging infrastructure has been free to access since 2016. We haven't started charging. You pay to park, but you haven't had to pay for the energy. That will change here in the near future because all of our infrastructure is considered high demand now. Our charging infrastructure originally was a lot of our vehicles, our city fleet using it to charge. But now we have so much demand on what we have in there, hence why we're putting so much more in, that's been critically important for us. So.
Great. So Alicia, back to, applying for funding and filling out paperwork. I think there's this, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to fill out 100 pages and put all this. I don't have time to do this. Can you give us an idea of what does it really look like when it comes to applying for the funding?
So it is a lot of work, mostly with the Department of Energy specifically, especially since they have a lot of funding for electrification. What they actually start with is a concept paper. So it's about a 2 to 4 page paper about what you would like to do as an organization with this funding. So for instance, recently I went in on a grant with a university for a workforce development program to train technicians to work on electric vehicles, since those jobs, and we need employees here, the future is already here. We don't have anything like that here within the region. So in order for people to be able to afford to live here, since those salaries start about $60,000 a year for these technicians, we're creating a program here where we can actually speak with people that may not necessarily think college is an option for them, or they like the automotive side, where they can actually still afford to live within our community. So honestly, the best thing is Definitely working with a local Clean Cities coordinator if you don't have a grant necessarily writer or a grant department within your organization. We work closely a lot with municipalities, like I said, even nonprofits. And what we do is we actually kind of do an outline, help them with it, put all the thoughts together, and then we help create the concept paper to submit to DOE. Once that is approved, then at that point, then you would submit a full application, which is usually about 10 pages. And that also goes for the Economic Development Administration as well. If you're looking for funding for maybe small businesses for electrification, which should be coming out in the near future, that's about a 10-page kind of paper that you would have to submit as well. So honestly, my best bet is time management. Look at the date for when things are due, because the concept paper is always due before a full application. So always just make sure you have little tickers on your Outlook calendar. Make sure you're actually meeting with everyone, getting your thoughts together on paper, because I do feel like some organizations, some individuals don't realize how much work does go into a grant application, and you do want to make it the best application so you can get awarded. And just a little caveat, a lot of the grant funding that's coming out is requested, especially through the Department of Energy, that you work with your local Clean Cities coalitions. So if you're, for instance, our region, I cover Palm Beach all the way down to Key West. So I work with stakeholders within that entire region. Within the state of Florida, we have a total of 4 coalitions, one in Central Florida, one in Tampa, and then one in North Florida, which is in the Jacksonville area. They're your greatest resource when you're looking for funding and electrification plans. Definitely reach out to them. They have their ear with the Department of Energy, the National Renewable Laboratories. We get insights of when funding's coming out. And also, Amy, I just wanted to bring up one point in regards to the supply chain issues. Right now, the federal government is actually issuing a temporary waiver for the Build America, Buy America. And they're actually having a webinar on that on February 7th. So that way, because of everything that's kind of happening with supply chain issues, they realize, and we're not actually producing enough here within the states, so they're actually issuing a waiver for that so that you still can purchase things that may not necessarily be maybe start production in another country, but final production here in America, and you can actually still use the federal funds for those vehicles or that infrastructure.
Yeah, great. And you're seeing more and more companies bringing manufacturing and bringing supply chain back to the United States. So that's encouraging. And we're doing the same at Blink. We have Buy American compliant as well. So, Anuj, I would like to ask about, supply chain shortages on the utility side. I hear, there's not enough transformers and so forth. How are you guys handling that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I think supply chain is a common theme. I kind of heard that in the previous panel. So from the utility side, certainly, transformers around the nation, right? There's a supply chain shortage for that, and the way we're approaching it for our programs is that we look at, where our deployment plans are, and how can we standardize our footprint at those sites that we are deploying at, right? So typically, and this is specifically to the public fast charging programs that we have, which I can certainly talk about or after, right? But we look at, a standard site footprint of 4 chargers. We have, strategic sourcing plans with our vendors to select that equipment. And because of that, we're able to standardize our transformer sizes and that sort of thing, right? So we're able to work with our supply chain and our OEMs to provide a volumetric sourcing approach to, mass order these and secure them and secure lead times that are associated with these so that we can bring some of those in, but also have a standard footprint so that we're not having to custom design every site that we go through. And then similarly on the permitting side, that's another area that we see, some delays and that sort of thing. So the guidance there that, we've been taking is to work with our AHJs very early and understand if there's any special requirements and that sort of thing, so we can kind of get ahead of it and share sort of our projects and our plans early so that people have a good awareness of it and can help us kind of move things along the process, and we're better prepared to move things along in the process.
Great. What are the lead times right now for getting permits?
It varies considerably by HJ to HJ, right? Some are very progressive and forward thinking, and so they make that process very easy. And then others, are still kind of getting used to the EVs and the infrastructure coming online, and so those don't quite take as long. So So it varies considerably. That was almost a trick question. I don't want to get sucked into, but
I was going to hold you to that.
yeah. But I think from city to city, I think go look for the best practices amongst your peers, and I think that's the best thing that could possibly occur there.
Mm-hmm. And Matt, you put ordinances in place to kind of help drive quicker turnarounds. Can you tell a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so I mean, we've done this on multiple fronts. We've done it for like energy efficiency upgrades on homes and those sort of things. Obviously, all we can control is city fees, city permit fees. I mean, obviously there may be county or state fees that apply, but we've tried to reduce as many cost barriers as possible for people to adopt this. And something I really wanted to mention too is, putting my sustainability hat on. Transportation, not only in our city, across the county, across the region, across the country, is our largest greenhouse gas emitter. So for us to be able to try to clean our transportation options is critically important for us to solve a lot of the, different shocks and stresses that we potentially could see with climate change and everything. Like, so for us, that's another reason why we wanted to kind of go in this direction too, is we really need to, help clean up our transportation industry, and whether electrification or whatever the future technology is going to be that helps do that is critically important. So I did want to mention that. But yeah, we've tried, everything in our power to be able to reduce as many, whether it be permit or barriers or cost barriers, to be able to ensure that not only can our residents adopt electric vehicles, but any new developments that are coming online in our city have that available. And, in talking to developers, that's another selling point for them when they're building these large developments, parking garages, attached to them. Having electric vehicle charging infrastructure as part of that is just an additional selling point for them. And for us, we require the same developments, any developments 20,000 square feet and above, to be built to green building standards, LEED Silver or equivalent. So that's getting them points through that as well. So it just kind of all blends together with how we want to make sure that, large developments, obviously we're still, building out, and up as a county, making sure that those buildings and that infrastructure that's coming online is environmentally sound and environmentally friendly.
Great. Well, we are out of time, but this has been amazing. I've learned so much listening to you all. So if you have any questions for the panelists, feel free to connect with them in the foyer as the next session is moving on. And I'm going to end with, the future is here.